The Los Angeles Angels are a certified mess these days. Shohei, best player maybe ever, blows his UCL after the Angels went all in at the deadline and suddenly forgot how to baseball. Mike Trout once again proves that superheroes do in fact break. Heck, Anthony Rendon appears to have forgotten how to speak English this season. And it's not just this year either. What about the years of tragedy, multiple deaths, unexplained declines, and multiple free agent failures over the years? Josh Hamilton. Well, gather round, baseball fans. Because what if I told you that the Anaheim Angels are literally cursed? Yep, former owner even confirmed it. But the actual proof supporting it is crazy. Welcome to Good Vibes Baseball. Please consider subscribing if you haven't. I do appreciate you either way. Now let's get into some good vibes, shall we? Well, before we pop on the old tinfoil hats, let's address the elephant in the room. How can they be cursed if they won a World Series back in 2002? Fair, but this isn't a Babe Ruth to the Yankees or a Cubs Billy Goat dealie. Nah, this is way darker than not winning a World Series. Sure, that was a part of it prior to 2002, but we're talking witches at one point. Stay tuned. But honestly, it might just explain why Albert Pujols, along with, as you'll see, several others, mysteriously got worse the moment they became an angel. So what item or act do we have to blame for this supposed curse? Our story is actually quite classic as far as ancient curses go. As mentioned before, this isn't about a player or an item. No, this is about the Angels Stadium, and we have to head back to 1964. Now, the team itself started playing in 1961. Fun fact, they actually played their first season in Los Angeles' Wrigley Field. That's right, LA had its own Wrigley Field back in the day. Pretty neat. But after the inaugural season, the Angels played the next few seasons at Dodger Stadium until their new stadium was completed in 1966. That new stadium is where our curse comes into play. Rumor has it that the 140 acres of farmland that the Anaheim Stadium was built on was actually the site of an ancient Native American burial ground. So again, classic conditions for a curse. I mean, what are we thinking here? Now back in 2002, there was some digging into whether or not this is actually true. And what did they determine? Nothing. That's right, they couldn't find proof saying the land was actually the site of an ancient burial ground, but the local tribe of the area, well, they believe it. In fact, they believe it so much that the Angels had the tribe bless the stadium prior to the 2002 season in secrecy. Yeah, the same season they won the World Series. But as crazy of a coincidence as that may be, we've got layers to this thing, guys. It's not just one thing. It's not even about having Ohtani and Trout, maybe the two best players ever, and them getting hurt. It's a history of tragic events, injuries, unexplained player declines, and even the former owners themselves saying and doing things to confirm the validity of this curse. First up, the tragic events. We are typically all about the good vibes here at the channel, but life, it isn't always a good vibe, especially if we're talking about curses. Like I said at the top, this isn't a typical baseball curse. This is dark as shit. From a sheer numbers standpoint, the Angels, well, they're kind of marked for death. According to an article from 2011, from 1960 to 2011, there were 32 players who died while actively playing or within a year of retiring. The Angels, they were linked to 7 of those. Next closest team was Cleveland with 3, and 2 of those players died in the same boating accident. But it gets worse. According to Baseball Reference, there have been 52 players who have died while actively playing Major League Baseball. The Angels, heavily linked to 8 of those. And of the most recent 15 players, 4 of those players' last seasons were with the Angels. But this isn't a recent thing either. Starting back in 1965, these are just some of the horrific events to strike the Angels. Reliever Dick Wantz died after brain tumor surgery. He debuted with the Angels a month prior. In 1968, Minnie Rojas was paralyzed, and his 2 children were killed in a car accident. In 1977, the team's number 1 pick in 1974, Mike Miley, died in a car accident. In 1978, All-Star Lyman Bostock was murdered before a game with the White Sox. We're not out of the 70s, folks. Thankfully, the 80s and 90s were not as trauma-filled in this regard, but look it up. There's more. But this also didn't stop when the Angels won the World Series in 2002. We remember the tragic passing of Nick Adenhart, the young pitcher who threw 6+ scoreless innings in his debut to then die in a car accident hours after the game. Luis Valbuena was killed in a horrible robbery turned car accident in 2018. And we can't forget about Tyler Skaggs and his unfortunate death due to a drug overdose in 2019. But enough with the death and despair. This is a baseball channel, and there are very compelling baseball reasons to support this supposed curse. Free agent failures. The Angels absolutely have them, but that doesn't alone mean you're cursed. I mean, look at the Rockies. They are still trying to sign a pitcher who can survive Coors Field. But that's the interesting part. Sure, the Angels have had some really dumb signings in their past. Zach Cozart had literally 1 great season with the Reds, and the Angels threw the bag at him. Same for Gary Matthews Jr. and his time with Texas. Maybe made the best catch I've ever seen, but who else was going to pay him like that? Or how about signing Matt Harvey to a 1-year, $11 million guaranteed deal after his issues with the Mets? They're your fault. But I'd argue that there are 5 players who any team in the league would have loved to have, but the Angels got. Unfortunately for those 5, their time in Los Angeles was, dare I say, cursed. Albert Pujols. Maybe the greatest hitter that I have ever seen in person. We just did a video on Miggy's excellent career, be sure to check it out, but Pujols is actually one of only 3 players ever, along with Miggy and Hank Aaron, to hit 500+ home runs, 3,000+ hits, and 600+ doubles. His career was destined for the Hall of Fame from Jump Street with his outrageous numbers. In fact, he is the only player in MLB history to start his career with 10 straight seasons with 30+ home runs and a batting average north of 300. And those 10 seasons as a Cardinal with 30+ bombs and a +300 batting average? Good for 4th all time, only behind the Babe, Barry Bonds, and again Hank Aaron. And even today, he currently ranks in the top 3 in Cardinals history in BWAR, slugging, OPS, total bases, doubles, runs, and home runs. So when the Cardinals decided to not re-sign Pujols to a massive deal after the 2011 season, many of us, we were shocked. The Angels, well, they were getting a first ballot Hall of Famer in the prime of his career. What could go wrong? Well, initially, things weren't that bad. Pujols hit a very solid .285 with 30 bombs, 50 doubles, and an OPS plus of 138. He was still 38% better than the league average. His BWAR of 4.0 was solid too, but nothing compared to even his lowest BWAR season total with the Cardinals of 5.7 in 2007. And unfortunately for Angels fans, it was all downhill from there. From a pure statistical standpoint, or from a BWAR perspective, there is no sugarcoating it. Albert Pujols' 9+ seasons as an Angel, not great. He was barely a starting level major leaguer. He never hit above 300 as an Angel. He did have 3 seasons with 30+ home runs, including 40 in 2015, but that was also the only season he made the All-Star team as an Angel. His career OPS plus with the Angels of 108 means he was just 8% better than the league average. Sure, injuries were a part of that, but prior to his time with the Angels, the most time he'd missed was just 19 games in 2006. Either way, Pujols' 12.8 B-WAR in 9+ seasons in LA is embarrassing compared to the phenomenal 88.8 B-WAR he put up in 12 seasons in St. Louis. Now, Pujols may be the most prolific of these players, but he's definitely not alone. Sorry, Angels fans, it's time to talk about Josh Hamilton. You want to talk about amazing baseball stories? Well, Josh Hamilton, he's your guy. I'm sure many of you are familiar with it, but if not, look it up. There are several excellent videos on the topic. But long story short, Hamilton was a former #1 overall pick who didn't make it to the big leagues until the age of 26 after battling addiction. He put his past behind him to put up some epic numbers for the Reds and then Texas Rangers. His home run derby performance in 2008 in Old Yankee Stadium might be a top 10 baseball moment ever. I still get goosebumps thinking about what he'd been through to get to that point and then to actually deliver. Baseball is the best, man. But coming off of 3 straight seasons with at least 121 games played, an MVP winning season in 2010 where he hit a massive .359 with 32 home runs and an OPS north of 1,000, and a seemingly airtight support system around him to keep his demons at bay, Hamilton was the free agent of the 2013 offseason, and the Angels seem to be making a very solid investment to pair with Pujols in that lineup. But this is the Angels, and the curse, well, it would claim another victim. Hamilton's first season with the Angels wasn't that bad, same as Pujols. But he was not what the Angels thought they were getting. He hit just .250 with 21 home runs and 32 doubles. His OPS of .739 was almost 200 points lower than the previous season in Texas. But he played! The following season in 2014, Hamilton would get hit with the injury bug, play in only 89 games while hitting just 10 home runs, and then suffer a relapse in his battle with addiction. The Angels traded him back to Texas the following April, and that was that. Hamilton finished with a B-WAR of just 2.7 in his 2 years in LA versus his 23 B-WAR in 6 years with Texas. The curse strikes again. But as with Pujols, it doesn't stop with Hamilton. Justin Upton was one of my favorite players growing up. He was going to be the next great thing and lead the D-backs to another World Series. Alas, what actually ended up happening was Upton performed pretty well for Arizona, but just never lived up to the expectations of a #1 overall pick. He was traded to Atlanta, spent 2 seasons there before being traded to San Diego. Fun fact, this is where the Braves acquired Max Fried. The Braves be Bravesin'! Upton then found himself in Detroit after signing in free agency and put up a very solid almost 2 seasons. I say almost because this is where the Angels come into play. They traded for Upton during the 2017 season to bolster their squad. In just 125 games that season with Detroit, Upton hit 28 bombs and had 94 runs batted in. His OPS plus of 137 would end up being the second highest number of his career. So of course the Angels wanted to acquire him. And the feeling was mutual as the Angels then locked Upton up to a free agent deal that offseason. Curse? What curse? Well, just like with Pujols, the curse, it took a little time to sink in. Initially, Upton continued to produce as he did in Detroit. He finished the 2017 season with an OPS plus of 136 and carried that success into 2018 with an OPS plus of 121 and 30 home runs. Then 2019 happened. Just like with Pujols, prior to his arrival in Los Angeles, Upton was a staple of durability. He played at least 149 games the 7 seasons prior to 2019. Well, from 2019 to 2021, he played in a total of just 194 games. He did hit 17 home runs in just 89 games in 2021, but the .211 batting average and constant injuries became just too much. The Angels ended up releasing Upton before the 2022 season. Upton would finish with a B-WAR of just 2 in 5 years with LA, compared to the 13.7 in 6 years in Arizona, or the 12.8 B-WAR in 4 years with Atlanta and Detroit combined. The curse claims another, but it wasn't its last. Anthony Rendon. What is there to really say? Well, this is where it gets weird for different reasons, folks. Signed in December of 2019 to a massive deal, Rendon was supposed to be the highlight of that free agency class. He put up a combined 30 Baseball Reference wins above replacement in 7 seasons in Washington. Originally drafted out of Rice, Rendon could always hit, and this is exactly what he did with the Nationals. He hit a very solid .290 with 136 home runs and an OPS plus of 126 in those 7 seasons. He finished as high as 3rd in MVP voting in 2019 and had consistently been healthy for that Nationals team, as he appeared in at least 136 games from 2016 to 2019. The Angels were not wrong to offer him a monster deal that offseason, but as with Pujols, Hamilton, and Upton, Rendon has absolutely struggled as an Angel. Health has been the biggest issue with Rendon, but even when healthy, his best season is his first, just like the others, and even then, .286 with 9 home runs in 52 games is not what the Angels signed up for. But it's gotten even worse. This season, it has gotten so bad that he recently told reporters, "No habla inglés," when asked about his injury status. He then got his own doctor to diagnose his injury as a fractured tibia instead of a bone bruise like the 3 previous doctors had diagnosed it as. Rendon can absolutely rebound and maybe make this deal worth it, I suppose. But based on history, it's doubtful. Rendon currently sits with a B-WAR of 3.1 through 4 years in LA versus the 30 B-WAR he put up in 7 years in Washington. But it hasn't been all bad for the Angels in their free agency endeavors. But even when they kind of get it right, the curse somehow still takes it away from them. Let's go back to the 90s. Vaughn was a legit slugger. He not only looked the part, he could mash. In 8 seasons with the Boston Red Sox, Vaughn put up a batting line of .304 with 230 dingers, 752 runs batted in, an OPS of .936, and an OPS plus of 140. He was coming off of 4 straight seasons with at least 35 home runs and a .300 batting average, including an MVP winning season in 1995. He was also healthy. He played in at least 140 games in the 4 years leading up to his signing with the then Anaheim Angels. This was a move by a team looking to make a splash on a proven slugger. And you know what? Looking only at the numbers, you'd probably be asking why Vaughn is even listed as a free agent failure. He did have 2 very solid seasons with the Angels, but that's it. Just 2. And you want to talk about cursed? He actually got hurt in his first game as an Angel, which he then came back from too soon. He did go on to mash 33 bombs and slug .866 in 1999 with the Angels, but that wasn't the MVP candidate that they thought they were signing. And again, he only played 1 more season with the Angels in 2000 before getting hurt again and then traded to the Mets. Vaughn put up a B-WAR of just 3.6 in 2 seasons with the Angels. In 8 seasons with the Red Sox, 24.7. Even when you think you've escaped, the curse actually gets you. But it's not enough for there to be a pattern of tragedy and player decline. What if I told you that the team itself has confirmed the curse a few times? Back at the start of this video, I promised witches. Well, it's time. Back in 1977, the Angels, well, they were in a bad place. And I mean bad. The team was slumping and was looking for anything to get them out of this funk. They reached out to Louise Hubner, the head of a nationwide coven consisting of 4,000 witches at the time. What the shit? Well, Miss Hubner provided the players with magic circles and told them to rub them under a full moon at exactly 9 p.m. Sounds ridiculous, but it actually worked. In the 6 games with her, the team went 6-0. Local papers even ran headlines giving credit of the win to the witch. I know what you're thinking. Why'd they stop at 6? Well, you can thank Bobby Bonds and some of the other Angels players for that, as they did not buy into it, which offended the witch. She is quoted as saying, "I'm not Mary Poppins. I don't have to help anybody. So I just pulled out. I put the curse back on." And you remember the tragic passing of former #1 pick Mike Miley that same year? Then Angels GM Harry Dalton actually said the curse was the first thing he thought of when he got the news of Miley's passing. This actually marks the first time the curse is mentioned in this time period. But the biggest bit of confirmation by the team to me is still the 2002 World Series. As we mentioned earlier, the Angels actually had a local tribe bless the stadium prior to the 2002 season. And it's not like they had a big ceremony for the public. Nope, this was something that the public didn't learn of until September of that year. Maybe the rally monkey was magic. So are the Angels actually cursed? Well, I think the evidence is pretty clear. Between the tragedies, the team's own confirmations, and the 5 players we walked through, plus the others we didn't even mention, Trout and Ohtani, for example. Or how about the 2010 Kendrys Morales injury? Dude smacks a walk-off granny and breaks his leg jumping on home plate. What the hell is that? So I may be putting my tinfoil hat away for now, baseball fans. But just remember, the next time you see an Angel get hurt, or maybe forget how to speak English, it might not be their fault at all. Blame it on where the stadium sits. Thanks so much for watching. I do appreciate you all. Be sure to check out my other videos and please consider subscribing if you haven't. Again, I do appreciate you either way. But until next time, baseball fans, cheers!